Welcome to the Vegas Nose podcast presented by BuckeyeScoop.com. I am Marc Givler, joined by Bill Greene. Let's get right into it. How much do we want to talk about last week, or do we just want to kind of stay below the radar right now? Because I'm not going to throw out exactly how well we did, but we did pretty well last week. Bill, what are we going to share how we did, or are we just going to kind of stay humble here?
Hey, when we swallow it and we own it. So yeah, I went 6-0 last week. I think you went 3-0 in the college. So big week there. That got me. I'm now 18-13 on the year. So over 500 by 5 games and looking to keep it rolling. And it was funny because we said last week that we really liked the card. Getting that Big Ten back, we were happy about that. Kind of found our footing, and it showed. Now we may get blitzed this week. You never know, but. Last week we felt things and we backed it up with some, 3-0 for you, 6-0 for me. Happy with that.
Yeah, 9-0. That's we should have just parlayed everything, and we wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. We'd be doing it from some island country or something. We certainly wouldn't be here talking to you guys, that's for sure. But yeah, so let's see. Gosh, every time I think I'm out of the woods, I stumble. So we'll see if I can keep it up this week. I really needed that. I'm still I think 2 games below 500 on the season. So I really needed a big week. You now have a really strong record for the season. First of all, what do you like this week? Do you have a lot of plays this week, or is it a smaller number for you? Or,
I got another 6-pack this week.
Okay.
So 6 bangers again. The first one I'm going with is West Virginia is at home, 4 points to Kansas State. Kansas State has had an amazing year so far. West Virginia over 500, lost a really weird game last week to Texas Tech. Coming back home, I think it's a tough trip for K-State. I think there's going to be weather involved. I'm going to take West Virginia here, 4-point favorite over Kansas State, and I just like the way this sets up for the Mountaineers. I think it's a tough ask for Kansas State. They lost their quarterback, and they've been winning, but boy, they've been getting outstatted in a lot of games. So I'm going to go with West Virginia here, -4 at home.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at that game, and I thought it was almost a fishy line. It was almost begging you for action on Kansas State. So I stayed away from it. So you're probably on the right end of that. It just didn't feel right. So that there, I do. I think they're asking for some action on Kansas State there. So Vegas may know something there. Since you got I'm down to just a few picks again this week. I'm trying to keep it simple as I try and claw my way back to 500. So what's another pick you have?
Yeah, last week I went with Purdue over Iowa. And they got the money for me. Happy with that. Illinois got murdered by Wisconsin. They got annihilated there, but they're back home. And Lovie Smith has done really well at home in an underdog. Well, they're always underdogs, but they've done really well at home on their Wisconsin last year. So I'm going to take Illinois against Purdue. I'm going to take the 7.5 points and think that they can hang in there and keep it close. And I hope Rondale Moore stays home for another week.
All right, you're sticking with the Big Ten here. I am actually, I guess the first game I like is in the SEC. I am taking, and I know they've looked ugly at times. I'm taking Kentucky +17. My goodness, the over/under in that game. They're hosting Georgia, so Georgia at Kentucky. I'm taking Kentucky +17. The over/under on that game is like 42.5. So everyone thinks that's going to be a low scoring game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game too. If Kentucky can just get to 10 points, or God forbid, even score 2 touchdowns on Saturday, they're going to cover. So I think that's a lot of points. I still don't like Georgia's outlook offensively. I think the quarterback position is still an issue. They seem to really struggle making big plays, getting chunk plays. Kentucky still plays pretty good defense. I'll take the 17 there.
Yeah, I looked at that. Kentucky's going with Gatewood at quarterback this week to transfer
Yep.
from Auburn. So who knows what that's going to do to the offense? It probably won't make their pass offense worse. That's for sure. And I could see that game, maybe some weather being involved there, and I could see maybe a 21-20 game. Kentucky plays everybody well. I mean, you don't see a lot of blowouts from either side in the Kentucky game. So you may have something there. I just didn't have a good feeling with the quarterback switch there. So another one I'm going with is back to the Big Ten, is kind of like my favorite team this year in the Big Ten. I love the Northwestern team. Had talked about them in my Big Ten preview that I thought they were the most under in the Big Ten. I've got a pretty nice size wager on them to go over their win total of 3.5. So I'm taking them this week. They're playing Iowa. I don't believe in this Iowa team. I think they've got some trouble there in the scenes that I don't think is going to easily be solved. I think Northwestern, they've got the most production back on offense and defense in the conference. Got that quarterback situation figured out right now. Pat Fitzgerald is an underdog, has been amazing last 4 or 5 years. So I'm rolling with Northwestern plus the 3 against Iowa. That's my third pick.
We're on the same side of that one. For me, this is very similar to last week. I think we were both on Purdue last week, I believe, right? I know I was.
Right.
I believe you were on that too.
Yep.
I took the 3 in that game, but said I thought Purdue was going to win, and they did. I'm going to say the same thing this week. I'm going to take the points because I think it's the smart thing to do. I'm just going to take the points. I'm not going to do a money line and pick or anything, but I do think Northwestern's going to beat Iowa. So I'm also taking the points there. So we are on the same page there. What else you got?
Good. Yeah. Back to the SEC. The LSU Auburn game I thought was really interesting this week.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it was all that good, but I just think it's going to be a closer game. I'm going to play the game under the total. The total is 65, and I really don't see how both these teams shoot out over 30. LSU's got quarterback issues. Auburn's got Gus Malzahn offense issues.
Got Gus Malzahn issues.
They've got Gus, so I'm going to take a shot here at the LSU Auburn game under the 65 and kind of roll with that.
They've not been very good for me this year. I have not totally goose egged on these guys, but I've taken them a couple times and it hasn't worked out, but I'm going back to the well. I've got Notre Dame minus 19.5 at Georgia Tech. I just think Georgia Tech is horrendous. Notre Dame's offense has been very inconsistent, I think, to be kind. I mean, at some games, their offense has just looked terrible, but they've also had some games where they've been able to put it together offensively. And if you're going to put it together offensively, I think Georgia Tech's probably a good opponent to have to try and do that. So I'm taking Notre Dame. I'm laying 19.5. I think they beat Georgia Tech by at least 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I kind of got scared off with Notre Dame playing Clemson next week, and I just kind of, I don't know, it kind of scared me off that game. Plus, I got enough already on my plate to deal with here. I'm going to the Big 12 game of the year in the Big 12 for State. They come off a nice win last week over Iowa State. I got the money with Iowa State, but Oklahoma State was the better team by far. Got a late touchdown default. They were up 10 and they let them have one for me, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State this week and lay the 3 points against Texas. Love the Oklahoma State defense. This is not a typical Big 12 team at all. They play great defense. Quarterback's getting healthy. Chuba Hubbard can run it. I think Oklahoma State, I think they're the better team. I think Texas has more problems than anyone can solve there. They got the AD forcing those players to stay on the field and sing the eyes of Texas. I didn't think that was a hill to die on. And it put Tom Herman right in the middle of that situation. So I'm rolling with Oklahoma State this week. I'm going to lay the 3 and think they're going to beat up on the Longhorns.
Yeah, I looked at that game very closely. I'm not going to lie. I almost played Texas just because I think it's a weird thing. It's not so much that I think they're going to get it rolling or anything like that. I've watched them so closely the last couple of years, and I won on them last week. They were -9 against Baylor, and that was a big number for a team that was struggling right now, and they covered. And Baylor made it a little interesting at the end, almost got backdoored there, but it just the way to play Texas the last couple of years under Tom Herman has been when you least expect them to turn in a great performance, they do. And when they're humming and it's rolling, beware. Do not take them when they are rolling, because they will burn you. And that's been my thing with Texas. So I wanted to actually take Texas. I didn't touch the game. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that. Logic would probably tell you you're on the right side of that, but just the Texas Tom Herman factor the last couple of years is when you think they're dead, they find a way.
Yeah.
So when you think he's got it stabilized, it's like, oh, okay, Tom, they're finding their footing. Nope. Like it's the way that program has went the last couple of years. So I'm not touching that one. I think that does it for our college picks. Do you have anything?
I got one more.
Oh, you do have one more.
I do.
Okay. We'll fire away.
I do. And we have a big game in Happy Valley this week with the Buckeyes traveling over to Penn State. Looked at this really closely. I am a big believer in James Franklin's ability to get his team ready to play Ohio State. Not a big believer in his ability to get his team to beat Ohio State. He's covered the last 4 in this series. Mm-hmm. I've got some notes here as a dog. He's 7-1 last 8 times he's been out, covered 4 straight against Ohio State. I think this is a great setting, even without the whiteout. I think it's a great spot for Penn State. They're better than a team that lost last week. That defense is really, really good. I think they're going to pressure Fields enough, kind of like they did last year. I think they're going to stop the run enough, and they're really good up front. They've got, 2 great defensive tackles. So, going against, Ohio State in this spot, it's been profitable the last couple of years. And I'm going to take the 12 points. Do I think they can win the game? I do not. But I think they can make it an ugly game, muck it up a little bit, try to control the ball, try to limit possessions. If Ohio State gets a lead, if that thing ever ends up 17-3, then it's Katie bar the door, and it's going to end up 44-3. But I think they can hang in there, make it a game that seems like it's close, but it's not really close. And not 12 points with Penn State here.
Yeah, I didn't like the line. I think Ohio State is significantly better. Not to the point of like a total blowout, but I think they're significantly better. But I think they got to be careful of being lulled to sleep by last week's result. I mean, look, I know stats aren't everything, but my gosh, if you would have looked at that game on paper, you would have thought Penn State would have won that game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I thought they were a lot better than Indiana for long stretches. They had some very bad, untimely turnovers and mistakes. And then, of course, at the end there, you got to go down. So I think Ohio State will be ready just because of the past games against this team, even in this environment. I know that the whiteout won't be happening, but I think that keeps the focus. But it is concerning. You don't want to lose. Oh, they lost Indiana, and there's no fans there. And I think Ohio State needs to be careful about that, about letting their guard down a little bit. They need to kind of stay on alert to hear that this is still the Penn State team they were expecting, and if they do that, I think they will be able to cover. But I have my suspicions about that, and about, especially I think Penn State's going to give them as much of a challenge up front in terms of Penn State's defensive line as Ohio State's going to see, at least in the Big Ten. So, that's an interesting one. Like I said, I didn't really love the line. That was a lot of points for me. So I just kind of stayed away. All right, let's see if you can go 6-0 again. We'll see if we can do a 9-0 again. Can we do 18-0? I probably not. I think we're more likely to be 9-9 at this time next week than we are to be 18-0. But we'll see what happens.
You never know.
Let's move to the NFL. Bill's favorite sport to bet, National Football League. How many games this week for you? And kind of start us off and kind of what you like.
This week.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 4 games. I had a great week last week. I went 1-2, which for me is cause to break out the champagne. I didn't lose a ton. I didn't lose them all, so I'm proud of myself. This is not my game. This is not my sport. It's not happening for me in the NFL. It never has. We press on. First one I'm taking Indianapolis. They're on the road, laying 2.5 at Detroit. I know Detroit came off a miracle win last week, but they're not going to have 2 miracle wins in a row. They were lucky they got to play a team in Atlanta that loses more close games in the end than Detroit loses close games in the end. So this one, I'm thinking Indianapolis is just simply the better team. And the 2.5 line is sucking me right in there. And I'm going to take to win this one, kind of get their season righted. I think Indianapolis is a pretty good team. I think they're better than Detroit. So I'm taking Indianapolis.
If you guys follow like our picks each week, if you actually like watch us each week, or at least read the message board and kind of look at what our picks are and our tendencies and kind of some of the running jokes of the season, you're going to love my plays this week. I promise. I continue, and I had a little more. I have I think 1 or 2 in a row now on this team. So I'm not like totally getting obliterated by these guys, but man, it seems like every week I find myself like betting against the Carolina Panthers, and they're just 1.5 point favorites here in this Thursday night game. I'm going to get this pick in on the message board in advance of kickoff. So if you're listening to this now, the game's probably over. We're going to run this until Friday morning, but it makes no logical sense for Atlanta to just be a 1.5 underdog. So I'm taking Atlanta plus 1.5 at Carolina. I continue to bet against Carolina for better or worse, and I'm doing so again. So the Falcons plus 1.5 at Carolina on Thursday night in a line that doesn't really make any sense to me. So there we are. Bill, what's on deck for you?
Yeah, we've got the Rams coming back across the country again, going to Miami. The Rams coming off a big win I don't believe in this Rams team at all. Not that I think Miami's all that good, but you got Tua Tagovailoa making his first start down in Miami. It's going to be hot and humid. The Rams are not going to take them seriously. Miami's going to win the game, I feel. I can beat them, but I'm still going to take those 3.5 points. There's a little cushion there, but I really feel this is a spot where the Rams could get upset. I think it's kind of a trap game for them, and I think Miami's really going to play well with Tua, and I'm rolling with the Dolphins plus 3.5.
All right. I am also going to take a line that is currently plus 3.5, and that is your Pittsburgh Steelers at Baltimore. I think that's a classic coin flip game. And in that setting, why not take the 3.5 points? So that's what I'm going to do. I think it's going to be in a fantastic game. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to miss it. I'm probably going to be driving home from Happy Valley while this game's going on. So, but I think I'll just record it and watch it later because I just think it's gonna be that good of a game. I think this is a fantastic matchup, great rivalry, and I like what Pittsburgh's doing right now. And I think again, when you think of a coin flip game, if you can get 3.5 points, that you take the 3.5 points. I think it probably comes down to a last minute field goal. So that's that's one of actually my favorite plays. So we'll see how that goes. Bill, what else you have?
We've got one more here, and I've ridden with them probably way too much this year, and mainly because I love the quarterback. I love Russell Wilson. They get the Niners this week at home. Seattle lost a tough one last week. Their defense is just not playing very well, but I don't know how well you have to play against Garoppolo and those guys, and I just think Russell Wilson minus 3 points. He's going to find a way to be better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think Seattle's going to win this game, and I'm going to lay there and throw the money on Russell Wilson, as I've done a lot this year so far.
All right. Well, there's still time here. You guys have a couple of days to digest this, but I've got an Eagles pick. I've got a Philadelphia Eagles pick. I did miss on the Steelers-Eagles over-under earlier in the season, but I am undefeated against the spread Philadelphia Eagles games this year. So we will see if that can continue on Sunday. So here's my pick. I don't care if Dallas starts Ben DiNucci, Ben-Hur, Benjamin Button. 9 point. The Eagles are not 9 points better than any professional football team right now. They're not. I wouldn't take the Eagles -9 against the Jets. That's how confident I am that 9 is way too big of a number for this game. So I'm taking Dallas +9. Dallas has burned me all year long. So this is going to be,
they burn everyone.
This is going to be fascinating. Yeah. I've got Dallas, who has burned me all year long, and I've got the Eagles, who have validated me all year long. So something has to give here. Something has to give. Either Dallas has to start paying out for me, or the Eagles are finally going to prove me wrong. But I am taking Dallas +9 on Sunday Night Football at Philly. I would hope Philly wins the game. I can tell you this, if they win, they're going to make it harder than it has to be, as we saw against the Giants last week, where I had the Giants +4.5, and no one believed me because the Giants were so terrible. There was just no way they could cover that. I'm like, well, you haven't watched much of the Eagles then. So I'm taking the points, and maybe the Eagles win by a field goal or even a touchdown, but I'm confident in that. I don't care who Dallas plays at quarterback. I did this in my head the other day. Even with all the injuries both teams have, if you combined their two rosters and did a draft, you'd still take 6 Cowboys in the top 10. So I'm in terms of who's actually playing on Sunday night. So, and I think actually that was a 6 out of 10 if Miles Sanders plays. And I'm not convinced Miles Sanders is playing. I think they're going to rest him with a bye week next week. I think they're going to give Miles that extra week of rest, make sure he's healthy coming out of the bye week, which we'll see if that comes to fruition on Sunday, but he hasn't practiced yet. So doesn't look great for him to play Sunday night. Bill, am I being crazy Philly fan, or am I on to something still?
Well, Dallas is 0-6 versus the line this year. They've got to cover, won't they? And I mean, if you're going to put your money on a team, I've lost with them a couple times this year, and I swore off Dallas and I swore off Atlanta. I'm done with those teams.
My only loss last week.
If you're going to put your heart, right, if you're going to put your cash on the line, this is my thought of the show. If you're going to put your money on the line, I think you got to put it on Ben DiNucci. Is that his name?
I think so. I may have got it wrong. I think that's what it is. That's what I called him. Yeah. So hopefully.
I think it is. You got to put your money on a guy named Ben DiNucci. I think that's the way to go. So I'm not going with it, but I wish you all the luck in the world.
I remember a similar speech last week about the Giants, but that's okay. Well, but it is fun. You did warn me not to bet Dallas last week, though. I bet Dallas. I called it a sucker bet too. Oh, I got Dallas. It's a pick 'em. This is easy money against the Redskins or the football team or whatever we're calling these days. And it was easy. It was very easy. That was a very comfortable cover if you had the Washington football team pick 'em. So, yep. Something's got it. I'm fascinated personally. Am I going to be validated about the Eagles again, or what's going to give here? It's going to be very interesting. This two teams that I've been very wrong about, and one I've been very right about. Now something's going to have to change there. So, all right, we'll see what happens. Everyone, good luck with your picks. I apologize in advance if I lead you astray, and we'll see you next week. And have a great weekend.